Welcome to the Hope Podcast. My name is Jonathan James, and I'll be your host today. I'm really excited to dive into yet another episode on our Women with Bleeding Disorders series. Today, I have a very special guest, Nandini Pethe, who grew up in India and was diagnosed very early in life, and then later came to the United States and had an amazing journey of learning how to treat her bleeding disorder. But first, I want to say a special thank you to our episode sponsor, Genentech, for sponsoring this episode. We hope you enjoy our time today. Well, Nandini, it is great to see you today. Thank you so much for joining me for the Hope Podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's really exciting to be able to have this conversation. We are in the middle of a series of talking about women with bleeding disorders, and there is really no one better I can think of to talk about a lifetime of experience than you on this topic. You have had just so many interesting things. What is that person that was like the most interesting man in the world? You're the most interesting woman in the world. So I learn something new every time that we talk. And so I'm really excited to get to know more about your story. But for people who might not know you like I do, I'd love for you to share just a little bit about where you're from and how you're impacted by a bleeding disorder.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed when I was 3 years old. I was in India at the time, and I had a lot of symptoms like bruising from crawling, bruising from people picking up a baby, fingerprints.
Wow.
And then it was diagnosed or misdiagnosed actually as a von Willebrand's disease. Because, that's now that we know only men can have hemophilia, not women. So so we lived with that diagnosis. I had a sheet of paper that said, this is what I have. And in case of bleeding, I should be given fresh frozen plasma. Avoid salicylates, aspirin, and stuff like that. And we just went with that. I mean, there was not much there. I mean, even if I was correctly diagnosed as hemophilia, there was no treatment at the time. So it didn't matter what the diagnosis was because I had to live without treatment anyway.
Right.
So...
do they give iron supplements or anything? I mean, do they give you any recommendations for vitamins, anything like that for your parents?
I remember something about vitamin C.
Interesting.
I don't know why. I was drinking lemonade every day. I don't know, but so that's all funny. I remember.
They thought you were thirsty. Just wanted
Yes, thirsty for a diagnosis.
That's right. For treatment, for actual treatment. Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, so I went through having all kinds of bleeds in all my joints. I had lots of fractures, like being just a kid. Like we didn't know there was a thing like joint bleed which was happening. It was just that if I fell or hurt myself, it takes forever to heal, so I have to just rise. And I was rising for a month, rising for a month and a half. But then somehow I felt better. I guess whatever factor I had, it helped. And I would just bounce back and get better, go around, hurt again, and then rise again.
Wow. And so did they have a way to check your levels, or was it just that they knew that you had...
I believe they only did the PTT and stuff like that at the time. But I don't know what they did. I mean,
so it wasn't until much later that you found out what your levels were and severity and all of that.
So fast forward to when I was 26 years old, my knee had always suffered a lot of damage by the time, and I couldn't sit crisscross at all. And I was getting up from the bed one day, and my leg was just stuck at 45-degree angle. I couldn't straighten it. I couldn't bend it.
Wow.
And I was like, it should resolve in a little bit. I should just walk it off. But I just couldn't straighten it to walk. And then we rested. I put some stuff on it, like ice, heat. Nothing worked. And then we finally went to orthopedist. They took an x-ray. And he's like, we may have to put you on traction. So I don't know if you all know what traction is. They lay you down and then put weights on your leg, and they keep increasing the weight till your leg straightens out. And then the orthopedist, we pulled out the paper saying, I have von Willebrand's and this and that. So he's like, no, we'll have to give you some medication before we do this because this could cause internal bleeding. And we had no idea what he was talking about. So he said, let's run some tests so we can get some fresh numbers. And when they did they sent me to a hematologist. And that's when it was revealed that she doesn't have von Willebrand's. She has low factor level. She's almost like a severe hemophiliac with 3% factor 8. So that's the first time I heard the word factor factor VIII deficiency, hemophilia, and all that. So they said, oh, it's a royal disease. I'm like, I don't feel like a royal right now, but whatever. So then I took the first, I think it was plasma-based factor they had at the time in India. This was in 95, I believe, 1995. And they gave me the factor, and then the treatment worked. I did a lot of PT, and then I was able to walk again.
Wow.
So
was it? And I'm certain that you were just in a lot of pain too through all of that, because it's extremely painful.
Yes.
How did you cope with that?
I don't know. I mean, I've been doing that all the time, so my threshold for pain
Your
is
whole life,
very
you're just
high.
an expert at coping. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And fortunately, it's a case with, I think, everybody with a bleeding disorder, when you, and especially in those years when there wasn't really a lot of treatment around, even for even when I was a kid, that was the case for me. It was like there wasn't great treatment or even no treatment at all. We went through shortages and outages at times where there wasn't accessible medication, and it's hard to imagine just even living with no solution, and you're just having to live with that bleed.
Yeah. So it was just a given that, oh, this is what you have, and that's how it's going to be. So you don't even think about that, oh, I wish I had a treatment, and you just don't go there. So
Right. And there was no one else in your family history that you knew of that had ever had this? And
nope, I started it.
Wow.
Because my mom, my dad, and both their parents were alive at the time, so we had everyone tested.
I bet. Yeah. Wow. So tell me a little bit about, in your journey, you that was at 6 years old that you're having this knee problem, right?
No, this was 26.
Oh, 26 years old. Wow. That's quite a bit different than 6 years old. Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
But as a little girl, you had things that were going on too. It was just rest and ice and just elevate. And it wasn't until you were 26 that you realized that you have that low of a factor level.
Yeah.
And that was when you were still in India at the time.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
And so at some point you end up moving to the United States through all of this. And tell me a little bit about what you learned in that part of the journey and getting.
So I actually came here with a diagnosis now that I had that. So it was kind of easy for me for people to accept that she already had a diagnosis. So all the tests were done, and it was there that I had hemophilia. So my HTC actually gave me a box of factor to keep at home for emergencies. And I'm like, what is this? I don't need $700 copay. It's too much. I don't want this. I didn't take any medication. I was living my life. I don't need this.
Wow.
But they said, no, you have to keep it. Don't you know it's very risky? You have only 3% factor. But I'm like, but I've always had that 3%.
But I love that.
I didn't know the seriousness about it.
Yeah. So. Wow. And in that process of learning, you're just really coping with whatever you had grown up with. And of course you have this medication now, but there's still, did you have any other incidents that came up that you really think, should I take this? Should I not take this?
You mean the factor?
Like accidents or any times where with the factor you thought, man, is this the time I should take it? Or you just kind of lived your life?
It was in the fridge and forgotten and donated later.
Wow. And one of the things that I know that a lot of women struggle with is, long menstrual cycles.
Yeah.
Was that something that you had trouble with early on?
Always.
Wow.
Heavy long cycles and anemia all my life. Mm-hmm. So I used to take iron supplements, but I don't think it helped.
Mm-hmm. But you didn't. I mean, I've heard some people say you only know what you know. You're normal, right? Was that kind of still the way your mindset was at the time? Was that there's maybe?
I knew it was a bleeding disorder, even though if it was von Willebrand's, I knew that it takes me a while. If I start bleeding, it takes a while. So, there was no Google or anything to search or ask anybody.
Right.
And it's a taboo subject in India, so it's not like you go out and talk about it.
Right.
So you just deal with it.
Wow. So along the journey of this, you get married and you end up getting pregnant at some point, right? And so tell me a little bit about learning about having kids and what that was like.
So the birth plan that we had to go through and everything, they wanted me to go with a C-section. Because it was risky as having this bleeding disorder. and it might be risky if my child has a bleeding disorder. So I was like, why would it be easier to have C-section when I already have a bleeding disorder? So then I decided, no, I want to go the natural way and then just treat the baby like he is a severe and take all the precautions. So that's how it was done. And my son does have severe hemophilia.
Wow. So you knew that there was a really high possibility that he may have a bleeding disorder.
We had the cord blood tested.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. So you knew even as an infant that he's going to be severe and we're just going to treat it as it comes?
I don't think I knew he would be a severe because I wasn't that educated about the genetic part of it, being that the gene is severe, so all your offspring. I didn't know that part. But I figured like if I survived in India, this is the US.
Wow.
So I thought he would be fine. And he is fine. So.
Yeah. So you got him to the same treatment center right away. I mean, even before, probably while you were pregnant, you're still having conversations with the treatment center, right? Yeah. Did you have complications in healing from after the pregnancy yourself?
Not much. But like the postpartum bleeding and everything, that was obviously prolonged a little bit. But all my joint issues started going downhill from there. Like,
wow.
I had such terrible joint pain. And my knee which was already messed up, I felt like something was going really wrong there. And I was in so much pain. And then, you know, how you are not sleeping well with a new baby and you're dealing with a new diagnosis. And then I thought maybe it's just me. So just popping painkillers. And then that's when Katrina also had happened. So it was just all a big mess. So I was just popping pain pills for a while. Like, I think Vioxx was given at the time. And then that stopped working. Then I went on steroids for a while. And then after we came back here to the HTC, they're like, how long have you been taking steroids? You shouldn't be on it for that long. And then I was like, but I can't even take a step without taking pain pills or anything. And that's when she said, let's try Factor on you. And I got 1 dose and I was like, wow, this is like magic.
Wow. So that was the first time that you actually had Factor?
That was the first time I had Factor, yeah.
Wow. Oh, my gosh. And you started healing right away?
Well, it was just 1 dose at the time. But
you felt
so I knew that I don't need pain pills. I need this.
Wow.
But you can't obviously have Factor every day at the time.
Right.
So I slowly weaned off of steroids and everything. And then I started to realize that this was such a big mistake. Like, you know, 1 shot could have fixed me and I've been taking these pills for 2 years.
Wow.
So that's when it started, like maybe we need to rethink the whole
treatment plan.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my goodness. So you have this 1 dose, you almost immediately can tell a difference.
Yeah.
What about the second dose? I mean, when at what point do you go and say, maybe, okay, now I know this is a solution that's really working. What changed then to get to the place where you had a second dose?
Well, I had so much arthritis in the knee that I couldn't tell whether it's my everyday pain or whether this is a bleed. And it was just very confusing. And they said, maybe your knee does need some therapy. You need strengthening. It might help. So, but I go for therapy, and every time I do therapy, I end up with a bleed. And then I have to take the shot, and then I would feel better. But then every time I do something else, it would go back to how it felt. And then it was a long journey learning whether it's a bleed pain or whether it's an arthritis pain. And then I remember Karen Wolf told me, oh, if it gets better with heat, it's arthritis. And if you feel more pain with heat, then it's probably a bleed.
Wow.
So that still works.
Karen Wolf was our nurse care coordinator at the treatment center here in New Orleans. And oh my gosh, she saved my life probably more than a dozen times and was in every operation and miss her dearly. And I know you had said at times, like even just learning with your son when he was born, just learning more information, how she was such a great educator, right?
She was. She explained to her, like our first ER trip with my son, they sent us back saying, oh, this should get better. He had a big bleed on the back of his hand. and they sent us back. So I called her again. I'm like, they said it's nothing, but then this thing is getting bigger. And then she saw us and she was like, you should realize you need to know when it's a bleed, and you have to tell the ER doctors because they don't always know what hemophilia is. I'm like, but it is the same hospital. Shouldn't they know? It's like, no, it doesn't. And if you are not in a setting where there's a hematologist who deals with hemophilia, they're not going to know. So that's when we were all like, this is so rare and we have this.
Right.
So she helped us learn more about the disorder. She trained us as to how to figure out if it's a bleed, if it needs treatment, how it feels, how to deal with ER situations. And that's when we started packing a ER bag. All the stuff you need for the baby. Stickers, bubbles, everything that helps him stay still for an infusion.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing. I think, talking to so many people who don't have access to a hemophilia treatment center, also we know it as an HTC. It's you don't really realize how good you have it until you meet people that don't have it. And, you've seen that in your lifetime, but I have to assume that there's, some level of sense of like, man, this is just what we've always had. Like it doesn't, and then you meet, have you met people that don't go to treatment centers or that are not as involved or, maybe as fortunate and kind of surprised by the fact that they aren't?
It was weird when I heard that their HTC, mostly women, when I go to women's conferences, they're like, our HTC doesn't believe us. They've been treating my son, who's a newborn, but I'm invisible to them, even though both of us have the same symptoms. And I was like blown away. I'm like, how is that possible? I get such good treatment. I was in this bubble thinking all HTCs and everybody knows about women with hemophilia.
Yeah.
But I guess I was lucky. My levels were so low that you couldn't not see it.
Yeah. What a great perspective. I was so lucky that I had so low factor. But,
otherwise, I would still be struggling.
Wow. So let's go back a little bit to you. You really get into a scenario where you see this great result from getting treatment yourself. And you're watching simultaneously your son grow, and now he's getting prophylactic treatment where he's getting treatment pretty regularly, and he's had some bleeds and different things that have occurred. And so is there a certain point you started to wonder if I should be taking this more regularly or if this is just something I should take on demand or just,
Yeah. So I was on demand for a while, for a long time, especially when I went for therapy. I would take a dose before I went. And then after a while, I realized that therapy is not going to do any good because I'm way past all that. So then once I stopped therapy, I stopped taking the on-demand or prophy before therapy. And I went back to all the pains, all the aches that I had before. So I told my doctor, see, I was able to do this, this, and this when I was doing therapy and I was taking the factor. But now that I'm not taking factor, all my regular pains have come back. So do you think it's related? And they're like, let's try. You don't go for therapy, but you take the factor twice a week and see. So I would take twice a week and I would feel good again. So they said, okay, let's continue it. So we continued that. But then I got overconfident and started doing more things. And then I ended up with bleeds. And then I would take 3 days, 4 days a week. That's when they said, maybe you should go on prophylaxis to prevent the joint from any further damage.
Right.
So that's how I went from on-demand to once a week, twice a week, and 3 times a week.
Wow.
So me and my son would sit and do our infusions at the same time.
Wow.
So that kind of helped me groom him as to how important, because he would see, he was a little bit, how kids are. They see everything. So he's like, oh, Mavi, you need to take your shot. So we would take it together. We would have matching medicolored bracelets. We would log everything together, peel the stickers, and place them on the calendars. So that helped him learn how it helps and how important it is to stay on your regimen.
Wow, that's so neat. It almost helped you form probably a pretty unique bond with him in a sense of just having to do that together. And
right.
Wow, that's so amazing. And so through this journey, as you're going along, you start to realize like there's other people out there that are not getting as good of care as what you've experienced. And so you started to get more and more involved in this. And actually, as of late, you've been willing to volunteer as a part of our Women's Council here at Hope.
Yes.
And I'm so excited about the progress that we have the potential to try to influence how we, see these issues as important and educate people on how to have the right language to advocate for themselves, both in the clinic setting, but also to insurance and some of the other areas that are so important. Tell me a little bit about what led you to want to be more involved in the community and starting to become more of a patient advocate for others.
Well, initially, we started just to learn for our own benefit, to learn from other people who had kids older than my son, to see how life is and what we should look for. And then as he got older and he started going to school, I had more and more free time. So my HTCs, social workers and all were like, oh, you should go for this women's conference here. Because, all this time I'm like, oh, I can't leave my son and go. What if they call from the school? So I was like stuck at home, the helicopter, typical parent. And we are Indians, so, we dote more on our kids anyway. But when I started going to these conferences, that's where I learned that everybody is not having it as easy as I had.
Wow.
And they're still struggling, and they have all the symptoms that I have, but they're not on treatment. They don't even have a diagnosis. And their uncles and their kids and everybody is on treatment, but they're not. And I'm like, how does that even happen? And then when your Hope Women's Council thing came up, I was like, yes, this is a good chance for everybody who's been through and is getting a treatment now to all these wonderful women, we could all find be like pillars. And we could weave a good web of experience and support and all the knowledge that we have gathered, and then support all the other women, guide them, give them direction how to go, and help as much as we can.
That's so good. It's interesting because I think, I've said for a long time that, even for men that are mild in terms of their diagnosis or factor levels, that part of the community, even moderate though, is in a probably much more vulnerable scenario than someone like you or I that are more severe, if you will.
The severes get all the focus.
Yeah, because and part of it's just the point of discovery. I think that it's also the insurance that also combats sometimes wanting to pay for things, and so they need abundance of proof, and so there is a sense of that. But we're discovering so much as we start to look at what is going on with people that do have, like in my case, I don't make any factor at all. Really, essentially, they don't ever say zero; they just say less than 1%.
But something.
Yeah, But at the end of the day, though, it's, there is a sense of like, okay, we know what happens when you don't have any. We know what happens when you don't have much. But then, there's a lot to be discovered between that 0 to 50%. And I just think that everybody needs to be looked at fairly and equally, and to attempt to at least try to say, okay, maybe you don't need 5,000 units of, replacement protein, but maybe you need even 500 or 200 units that could be life-changing for somebody. And you've seen this happen in your own life where you had such a boulder on your back trying to carry this joint damage that was from, going without treatment. And then, like you said, you had to start treating maybe 2 or 3 times a week just because you started doing more adventurous things. I heard a doctor say one time that they said, she had parents calling her going, does this medicine produce ADHD? Because my children are bouncing off the walls and they used to not bounce off the walls like this,
Before,
but it's really because it doesn't hurt. And so I just think we want freedom for all women who have a deficiency, no matter, what that deficiency is, right?
We do. And I feel like there should be some studies that give you a symptom list for milds and moderates also. Because like somebody who has a moderate or a mild level and he has some symptoms, they are not going to match the symptoms of a severe who hits a table and immediately swells up.
Right.
So, I mean, the mild one has to wait for years and years worth of damage, like me. Like, I just knew I had a disorder and I had to live like that. I didn't know there was a treatment, but the same thing is happening with women and milds and moderate here whose symptoms are ignored, or they're ignoring it themselves, or the doctors are, or whoever. But then all these years worth of damage shows up when you start in your 30s or 40s, or and then it was the cumulative effect of all these microbleeds over the life. So could have been prevented with 1-2 doses a week. So that, I don't know, that needs to be studied somehow.
I've even heard it said, even with menstrual cycles, that effectively if you're having more than 3 to 5 days of bleeding, you're having a bleed, and so even if it's just once a month, for that, it could be something that could help, and like you said, it actually is preventing a certain measure of cost as it pertains to hospitalization because of this, or maybe unnecessary surgeries. There's so many women out there.
Quality of life. Because, it was so gradual for me that one little bleed would cause this, and one little bleed would cause that. And then, I could climb 7 steps. Now I can only do 4. Now I can do 1. Well, I don't think I want to do that. So, but then it happens gradually where you try to compensate. I'm like, it's just one little thing. It's just one little thing. But then when you look at a person who is fine with no bleeding disorder or any damage, like, I never could do that when I was that age. And then you start to connect everything.
Connect the dots, yeah. Wow. How did being a mom of your son who was severe, how did that have any influence, I guess, on your perspective of your own care, and managing his, potential breakthrough bleeds and his need for maybe even changing products from time to time? Is there some kind of, thing just in the journey of teaching him even how to own his own, care plan? Like, what lessons did you learn from even helping him?
I mean, both our journey went kind of simultaneously. So he kind of learned from how we talk and how we talk to the doctors, how we ask questions. We had told him that, how we have those free dinners with product pharmaceutical things when they have a new product. So we would take him for all that, and we would tell him, you have to ask 2 questions at least. So we would make sure he would, and then you would get this prize.
Okay.
So that would make him listen. Yeah. And then the 2 questions have to be like, it should make sense, not like where do you live or something silly. It has to make sense to the product or whatever the presentation was.
That's smart.
So he learned quite a bit from that. And I think that's how, we advocate, and he was there with us, so he knew how to advocate. So it just went on. Like, we didn't have to put too much effort into it.
Yeah.
This is just what we should be doing, and this is what we're doing.
That's great. That's great. And you were really big on documenting all of the bleeds and making certain that you're putting stickers on the manual papers and stuff.
We started off writing, actually.
Yeah, okay.
Write the whole lot number and everything.
Yeah.
And then the stickers came, and it was such a blessing.
Such a convenience. Yes.
And then now we just scan it with MicroHealth, and it's been amazing because, I don't know, I feel like it's so important to keep records, because if I had not kept records, I wouldn't know that I felt better with the 2-dose things, and then I was hurting. I mean, you know it, but when you actually document it and when you show it to the doctor, they know you really are taking care of yourself, and it does make a difference. Even for women, if you keep records and you see somebody having a bleed every month, should be on prophylaxis.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like MicroHealth helps because it's so easy. You can set reminders, so you don't give yourself any excuse for why you didn't take your infusion. Because, there's reminders, there's alarms on the phone. All you have to do is scan the QR code, and all the information is captured. You can take notes, you can take pictures. So I think it's easier even for the doctors to go through the whole year at a glance rather than skim through like 52 weeks of stickers and notes.
Right.
So it gives you a clear picture of where you are with your treatment right now, if it needs tweaking, if it needs any change, if you need to change products. So I think everybody should log. And microhealth is an amazing way, but give it a try. It's really good.
Yeah.
I've been using it for 9 years now.
Wow.
So I have all my records with notes, pictures, everything in my hand.
Wow. How important do you think it is even for you to be able to, if you were to have like even problems with the insurance or anything like that, to be able to display that you've been, getting this treatment and how...
That came in very handy when I had to switch treatments because I had all the documentation. So from going on demand to this, you could tell that, this is what the patient needs because this is what they've been having. And if we do it 3 times a week, it would help that much. So, I'm sure the doctors have to make a case to the insurance company why they need the product change. So every document you have is enough and they have to know where it's going. So... it's always important to keep records.
Same for the doctors. I mean, I know for a lot of the women that we talk to also have found that even if they're not getting treatment, how important it is to keep a health journal to be able to show like, I had this bruise and it did disappear right away. It took some time for it to heal. And day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, this is what happened. And then, and then when you do get treatment, then all of a sudden you go, I got this bruise and it was gone in day 2. Like sometimes those, and I've heard a lot of doctors say like when they see the raw data like that you've been keeping track over time, that is basically the concrete evidence they need to be able to present make a case, right?
Yeah. So that's where I like that you can take pictures and keep, because how do you show that I had a bruise 5 months ago? And it was that big, and then it went from that big to that big. But it kept getting bigger, it didn't help, and then finally I took a factor, and look, now it's gone. So you can show all that with pictures in your records. And it just, I feel like I should do my side of the thing correctly and then present it rather than just tell them, I think you should give it to me, so give it to me.
Yeah, it's funny because, it's sort of, you have to discipline yourself, I think, especially for people who are not naturally wired to think in terms of documenting things like that. It's just a matter of, I just should be able to go and ask for this medication. They should be able to give it to me. But there really is a value in being able to have, because it may not happen every month. It may happen every couple of months that you have some sort of event. But when you go to the HTC even, and who are the most expert people who are going to know how to handle your circumstances probably better than any other specialist, even in hematology. They still they're looking at a year of health information in a matter of an hour or less that they're going to spend with you. They need to be able to see it very plainly over a long period of time, right?
Yeah, right. Because that's where it comes in, where if they know you're doing this diligently for this whole period of time with everything that happened to you, you're keeping a record, then somehow it puts a stress on them that they should do their part as well. So I don't know, that's how I am. So, and it has helped. So that's how it should be. Everybody should keep records of what's going on with them, because just talking about it from memory once a year, it doesn't work for me, at least.
It's so true. Even for me, like I still struggle sometimes. I have to confess, I'm not the most diligent at writing down all my incidences that happen year round. But I know that I sit in the clinic sometimes and I'm just like, well, I've just noticed a trend, and here's where I feel like the trend is. And then the doctor's like, okay, so tell me, how many times did that occur? And I go, deer in the headlights. I'm like, I don't know, like 3. And I feel like my response of not having concrete data to say, well, let me pull out my app and let me show you how many times this occurred for me in this past year. The response I get from the doctor is totally different when I have that evidence versus when I, and that's with a doctor who knows what to do and has the credentials and actually is a specialist in the field.
It's the only person who can help you.
That's right. And so I need to do my part, like you said, to be able to make certain that I'm giving them the tools that they can use
to help us in turn.
That's right.
Yeah, so when I go for my HTC appointment, they have the whole microhealth thing printed. Like they have,
because
I don't
it's
know,
shared, right, with
it's
you
shared,
and your treatment
me
center,
and the
so they can
HTC.
see it. Yeah,
yes,
that's great.
So they have it all printed, all the charts and everything, and the blues are the infusions, the reds are the bleeds. So just one glance, and they know how many bleeds I had. So that saves time. That makes everything so much easier. And I think for women, it would be more helpful if they can document their journey in an app like this, where they can take pictures and show 6 months worth of data even. That this is what's going on with me. How can you help me?
That's so good. I want to touch on being a parent and raising a son with hemophilia and the transition of life, especially now that your son's going off to college and there's some transition happening. Any advice that you'd give moms out there who are trying to figure out how to help their children to own their own treatment plan? Because you have done, I just have to say, your son is one of the most well-educated and also well-empowered to do this. But I just think of you as you and your husband both have just been such a great example of what it means to be able to train your kids to take ownership through the process.
Thank you.
I know you well enough to know that you also get frustrated with him sometimes too, but
with my husband, you mean?
Yeah. That too. But I mean, what do you feel like is something that is important to do to train your kids to help them take ownership of their?
I think they have to know they have to understand that this is what their life is going to be like. And then we have to work towards making this our normal. Like, this is our normal, so this is how it's going to be. And to make the most of it, this is what you have to do, which is what you take your medication like the doctor told you. And something hurts, take care of it right away, not after the game is over or not after you're coming back home. Wear your medical alerts and keep records of everything, because that's your whole life.
That's
Your whole journey should be captured.
Yeah. And you do it in little ways all the time, and you do it in middle ways and big ways, right? Every chance you get, you basically reinforce
every chance
that.
you get. It's a constant learning experience.
Yeah.
And I'll teach them, like even when we go for HTCs, we would just be there, and we would let him take the lead and talk to the doctors. If he has any questions or if he wants to ask anything, we would tell him to do it, and then we would say, that was such a good job. You make a big deal out of it. And then you just encourage them to do that, because it is intimidating even for us to, like, initially when we went to the ER, the doctor tells us he's fine and we come back home. I'm like, what the hell were we thinking? It should not be like that. You have to ask questions, because, you're not a doctor. The only resource you have is your doctor, and you should ask him whatever doubts you have. I mean, at this point, I don't care if they think I'm stupid or dumb. I just want to learn. So I'm asking you a question and I need an answer. And if you don't satisfy it, then at least now I know where I can go. I can go to Google or ChatGPT. But at the time, it was just the people around us who could help us. So the community, you ask people, what happens when you do this? What happens when you go to the ER? And ER was probably the toughest on us, because it's like all the people that you don't know.
Right.
And sometimes it's in a different state. And then you pull out your, the ER guide that we used to have. This is what he has. But like, you're so stressed that you can't even read the thing that's written on there. And then doctors, of course, they don't like patients teaching them. So that's another. So you just have to learn how to do all that and be respectful of the professional knowledge that they have, and hope for the best, I guess.
Yeah, but it's good to know your resources. Like you said, it's good to have, it's one of the reasons why it's so important to be close to your HTC and to the staff there, and to build real relationships.
Yeah.
I'm a big technology guy. I love tech. But while we do have Google or ChatGPT or something like this, it's like it's a convenience thing, but at the end of the day, sometimes I worry about this day and age that so many people start relying on that more than they're relying on their actual relationships with experts. And it's not just the doctor, it's also the nurse and the physical therapist at the treatment center. It's also knowing the other people in the community that you've worked with, or that you've seen around the community at those dinners or whatever it is that you're self-educating at. But you and Subodh both have been so good at not only training Benjamin how to be a life learner himself and to embrace it fully and just to know that this is his life and this is what he has to do and not to be afraid of it, to embrace it and all of those things.
Yeah.
I remember meeting Benjamin when he was just little bitty and it was such your whole family struck me way back then that you were determined to just be, we're just going to educate and learn and absorb and be a sponge. And
because it's so easy to just, sit there and cry, oh, God, I got dealt this bad hand and I have to deal with this. Now my son has this. Like I went through that phase where you get depressed, you have guilt, and then like I've ruined everybody's life. And it's so much easier to do that. And then it was my mom and my husband who said, like, it's done now. This is what it is. So just crying or anything is not going to help me. So he's looking at it from a tech side and he's like, has a flow chart. Like, this is what happened. Now we have to do this. Now we go to the ER. Then this is what should be done. So he had a big plan for everything. But when you see your child in pain, it all goes away. Like, no, we have to do something. So that's when we said we have to learn more about this. We have to figure out like how other people deal with this. I mean, we can be the only ones. And that's how we got into the community.
It's so good. And I think that knowing people, both who've lived with it and also the experts who really understand it scientifically, it really is the only way to really protect your future as a family, but also to protect your own mental health in the process too,
sanity.
right?
Yeah.
I'm, so inspired just by how much that you've been able to navigate so many unknowns and so many difficulties. I'd like to know just, going back to being a female yourself as a person living with a bleeding disorder and being out in the broader community as an advocate for others and seeing what others have gone on. How has it made you feel to learn that there is sort of a stigma that's attached to like, well, even though there's been so much advancement and you've realized that you got probably the best variation of treatment you could have, but how does it make you feel when you see other women going through in the broader community and sort of being dismissed as not being able to have this? I mean, there's got to be at least some measure of like, this is 25 years ago. This is 2025.
I mean,
How do
it just baffles me that how can this be ignored? Like,
right.
I don't know what to say. The first time I went for the Michigan conference and there was all these women talking about how they have symptoms and all their cycles are so heavy and they had such huge postpartum bleeding. And I was like, why is nobody treating this woman?
Wow.
Why, I mean, what's the reason behind? I still can't figure out why. But I guess advocacy is all we can do. We can just go out there and tell that this does happen. I mean, look at me. I'm always out there to help anybody. And people who say women can't have hemophilia, I'm like right here. So
good.
I mean, I know it's difficult because there's some milds who bleed like severes, and then there's some severes who bleed like mild. So it's a little different. But then I don't know. The treatment should be according to the symptoms, I guess.
Yes.
So we just have to spread the word.
That's so
good.
Maybe
Maybe one commercial during Super Bowl.
That's what we need.
That should help. Just a few $1 million.
One commercial. Yeah. It's like 15 seconds only. Yeah, that's right. That's a good idea. We should do that. I love it. I think that there is so much to be done. And I just wonder from your perspective, having gone through what you've gone through, advocating for other women like you're doing, do you have hope in your heart in terms of that this can change and that this can improve for women?
I think so, because especially this year, there's a good momentum. Everybody is talking about women's bleeding disorders. So I think we should keep it going. We should do as much as we can while people are still talking.
Yeah.
and just bring all this out to everybody else.
Yeah. So good. So good. I think that there's still so much more to do, and I'm really appreciative of your work with the Women's Council to continue to advocate for education and progress in terms of how to create the right programming for even patients. I mean, there's a whole education curve, I think, for many women who don't even realize they can have it. They just thought they were a carrier, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden it makes sense that they've had all these things going on and they didn't know that that's what the problem was. So there's the patient education side. And then there's also, I think that I'm hopeful that science will catch up and that the documentation will catch up over time and that there will be more resources available for women. Insurance is always a challenge for all of us.
For everyone, yes.
But I do think that that's some of the apprehension within the professional clinician side of things is that it's very difficult to be in a constant sense of defending, how to overcome formulary decision making. But I one of the things that I do find a lot of, that I'm very passionate about is that there is no such thing as a one size fits all when it comes to bleeding disorders, right? Correct. I mean, every person needs to be looked at as their own unique person.
Yes. When you've seen one hemophiliac, you have seen one hemophiliac.
That's right. That's so true. And also in your example, in your story, you've benefited from, being at one of the best treatment centers in the country. And, what would you say to maybe somebody who's listening to this right now and thinking, gosh, I've been told that it can't be this. There's no way it could be this, but maybe they really feel like deep down they're pretty sure that this is what the problem is. But they don't have, they haven't even, been aware that there was a treatment center, right? Or even to look for one. What would you say in terms of to any women like that who may need to go and find a treatment center to get to? How valuable is that?
I think it's very valuable, not only for the treatment, of course, for the patient, but also to get data, because all the data that we have is coming from the HTCs, and people who are not going to the HTCs are seeing standalone hematologists who have been helping them. I don't think that's included in all the data, and that's why we are still stuck at 20,000 people with hemophilia.
Right.
So maybe, I don't know how to do this, but I think people should probably go to the HTCs, document everything, and because data is everything nowadays. You have to have data to get anything changed.
So true.
So be a part of contributing to that data. Do surveys, researches, whatever you can do from your side, whatever you feel comfortable. Share your data with whoever, as much as you can, because our community is so small. There's not like millions of people who can go in for research and surveys. So if we don't do it, who's going to do it?
That's so true. That's so good. It's so true. I think that it's unfortunate with some of the changes that we've seen happen recently with some of the data collection at CDC, but we're hearing now that there's some of that's coming back. The data hasn't been lost. But also, I do think that there's going to be more funding and more opportunities to do more research in the future. And you're exactly right. The data that's being collected, at the treatment center in correlation with the CDC and NIH and all of the agencies, that is, many times the independent hematologists are not contributing to that. Right. And so, it's really no fault of their own. It's just a matter of just how the system works. And so it's so important that we have that information, because that is the only way. If the broad understanding in the data says that women aren't really having bleeds. We don't see
that many women in the
but
HTC,
all the women who are having bleeds are not going to the treatment center, then it's never going to produce change either.
Right. So I have no solution for that. I don't know how that can be done. But it needs to be done, because the more data there is on women, that's the only way we can get them treated. Yeah,
that's true. Well, thank you so much for all that you're doing with the Women's Council and that you're doing to advocate for women every day. I know that there is a lot of things that you could be doing with your time, but just watching you give back and volunteer and be a contributor to the future of the community is so amazing. And I really appreciate just your vulnerability to share your story. I know that there's so many nuances and so many other things that people can, that they could learn from your story and the journey that you've been down. But I just appreciate your willingness to share, because I feel like that there's so many people out there that need to know that maybe they're not just a caregiver of a person with a bleeding disorder. Maybe they themselves need to get a little bit of investigation going to find out what they're going through.
Yeah. And moms tend to ignore themselves. Like, I've done it myself. I'm like, oh, I can wait. He's more important. So I would focus all my attention on him. But it's hard. I mean, it's hard for moms to take care of themselves while they're raising a child with hemophilia. At least I knew what I was dealing with. But when it's a diagnosis out of the blue, I'm sure it's very hard.
Yeah. If people are listening to this podcast and they could take away one thing, what would that one thing be for you?
I would say learn as much as you can about your disorder. Find out from all the resources what you can. I believe education is our ammunition in this field. So just learn.
That's so good. Well, you and Subodh are the picture-perfect example of what it means to really be life learners. And I'm so grateful to know you, and I really appreciate you being on the Hope Podcast today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of the Hope Podcast. And I just want to say a special thank you again to Nandini for joining me for this episode. Just such a great example of someone who has been a self-learner and a life learner for her and her son as a caregiver. She is truly an amazing person who continues to advocate for women all over the world. I'm excited about this episode. If you enjoyed this conversation and got something out of it, I would love to ask you to share this with a friend or family member who may also be searching for solutions while living with a bleeding disorder. There is so many people out there who are suspicious of these problems occurring in their life, but have not yet reached a diagnosis. This may be the episode that is a key to helping you unlock their future for solutions. And so we encourage you to like and subscribe also for future content, because we'll be talking about a lot more important subjects in the future that I think will help you along your journey of living with a bleeding disorder. I also want to say a special thank you to our episode sponsor, Genentech, for sponsoring this episode, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care.